Hello everyone, welcome to What If Denji Was in ReZero movie. Before we start, please go support Lyrics13 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Denji is a male. After the events of the first part of Chainsaw Man and spoiler, the death of Makima Denji is mysteriously transported to a mysterious world. Chapter 1: Strange World. It had only been a few days since he turned Makima into a series of beautifully crafted dishes and ate her. He felt a bit empty after that, and spent his time wandering around the city trying to find something to do. At some point, he realized how easy it was to use discarded cigarette butts and roll new cigarettes to sell for more. An unusual instinct for advancement took hold of him. Having never been to school and with such a troubled life, the ways he had to earn money were limited. He'd spent those 4 days fighting every demon he'd encountered, beginning to make his name known among the people. Chainsaw Man was what they called him. They treated him as something similar to an anti-hero. Someone who seeks to do good from the shadows using unorthodox methods. Denji was walking through the streets after a long day of making fake cigarette boxes and doing the occasional favor. Denji, 800, 900, 1050 yen. Denji looked to the side and saw a store full of chips, mangas, and other things. Denji, perfect. Some ramen wouldn't hurt. Denji walked in and perused some of the store's items. For some reason, he could only see the chicken-flavored ramen line. However, if you look closely, you quickly realize that this flavor is significantly cheaper than those with a particularly unusual flavor. Denji's face quickly changed when he saw the prices hovering around 400 yen. Almost half of what he'd managed to scrape together today. He turned around, looking somewhat annoyed. Denji, I didn't know those plastic tubs of noodles cost 3 times as much as a bag of noodles. I'd better make them myself at home. The boy stepped outside and the entire space around him began to warp. Denji looked at this somewhat tiredly, as if he knew the cause. Denji, some demon wants to kill me? Get ready, idiot, because you caught me in a bad mood. Denji's vision suddenly blurred, and when he blinked he was blinded by a white light. Little by little he got used to the new light, and when he looked around he realized he was no longer in his old world. He looked to the right and managed to spot a lizard man. He looked at the ground and noticed a large number of cobblestones littering the path. He looked up and noticed a completely clear, blue sky. He noticed the houses and saw their simple, medieval architecture. He breathed deeply and felt the fresh, clean, oxygenated air enter his lungs. He tried to refrain from shouting and touching everything and everyone around him. Denji, this could be the work of some demon from the portals? The dimensions? Or an illusion demon? He started talking to himself, and was brought out of his thoughts by being hit by the shoulder of a demi-human. Move, kid! Denji stared at that thing that kept walking as if nothing was happening and brought his hand to the chainsaw rope on his chest and held it for a few seconds. Denji, no, I don't think that's a good idea. He pulled his hand away and turned around to start walking while sighing. Denji, if this is a trap, well, congratulations, it's the best made trap I've ever seen. He started walking and came to an apple stand where a green-haired man was standing. He stopped and looked at the sign. Denji, I can't read it. But I did understand the language. It must be some kind of strange coincidence. Hey kid, why are you mumbling so much? Denji, I was just talking to myself. I actually have a little question. What's the name of this place? You're asking this salesperson questions without even buying anything first. How disrespectful. Denji took out his wallet and took some bills out of it and held them for a few moments, while he thought carefully. Denji, all the money I'm carrying isn't from this place, so I doubt it'll be of any use to you. The salesman's expression grew sharper as he approached Denji. That means you're bankrupt. You poor fellow. Get out of my business, you're driving away customers. The man grabbed Denji by the collar of his clothes and pushed him. Denji, falling to the ground in the middle of that street full of more stalls and people looking at him, slowly brought his hand to the rope and held it for a few seconds, and then looked at the man with a serious and somewhat neutral expression, as if whatever decision he was going to make didn't really matter to him. At that moment, a girl's scream was heard, along with several hits from what? Projectiles? Denji and almost everyone there turned around quickly and saw a girl running away from a silver-haired girl who, with some blue sparkles from her hands, was shooting ice balls at her. The girl began to chase her, passing over the scene that Denji was about to make, looking at her face for a few seconds. Denji, she's cuter than shit. Denji whispered to himself and lay on the ground for a few seconds thinking about what had just happened. Was she robbed? She looked just like the witch. Was she a spirit arts user? How careless. She left a mark on the building. Her appearance was terrifying. Just like the legends describe. Dirty woman. As she thought about what to do, she heard the murmurs of the crowd and grew disgusted by what she heard. Was that how they were talking about the silver-haired girl? Denji stood up and glared at the mass of people. Denji, aren't you ashamed of yourself for talking about that girl like that? At least say it straight out if you have the balls. The crowd turned to look at Denji. They began to murmur. Who's that idiot? Such strange clothes. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I've never seen anyone so stupid. He doesn't look like he's from around here. Denji looked at them and then turned around to see that the girl was no longer there. Denji, I'm just wasting my time with these fools. Denji started running to avoid losing track of that girl. Denji, if this place is real, it must be like those isekai mangas. It's like I'm in a manga or one of those boring fantasy novels. Denji's eyes widened as he breathed heavily and tried not to stop running. Denji, this place must have magic, those super formal knights, princesses, kings, and all sorts of troublesome situations. In the end, he concluded one thing: this new world would be quite problematic for him. After spending so much time working for the control demon without knowing it, after losing Aki, power, after forcing Kobini to dance, he still wouldn't get his long-awaited retirement. Denji, at least a damn vacation. The boy reached an alley where he had seen the girl pass and found it empty. Not a single person, completely empty, but there were traces of destruction that indicated someone had crossed it by jumping and climbing onto the roofs of houses. Denji, perfect. Denji began to climb onto a box to get onto the roof of one of the houses that had its wall on the alley. What the hell are you trying to do? Denji stopped when he heard that voice and slowly turned his head until he saw the person who spoke to him directly, noticing 3 silhouettes at the entrance of the alley. You don't look like you're from around here. Denji quickly realized that their clothing and attitude indicated that they were thieves. Denji, that's because I'm not from here. //xd//. One of the guys took a step and spoke. Okay, let's make it easy. Leave all your things on the floor, including your clothes. Maybe that way we won't hurt you. One of the thieves, the shortest one, began to laugh and spoke. Ha 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 ha. You'll have to dance too, that way we'll make it more humiliating. Denji was looking at them with a bored expression on his face, waiting for them to attack. Denji, guys, I'm following a pretty girl. All you're doing is slowing me down. If you leave now, I might not kill you. The thieves' expressions changed automatically. It was as if their honor had been trampled on. They had been mocked. Not long ago, they started robbing people, and more than robbing them, they were begging them to hand over their belongings. Most of their attempted robberies had been thwarted by their own stupidity, or by the occasional imperial knight passing by. Now, facing this boy who looked weak from a distance, being the butt of mockery from the person they were supposed to rob isn't the most fun thing in the world. In fact. Are you making fun of me? Denji looked at them impatiently. Denji, yeah? What are you going to do about it, dwarf? The fat man took a step forward and approached Denji. Denji did the same, surprising the thief, who thought he was just being brave. What happened seconds later was hard to believe for the two behind them. Denji ran a meter, jumped, and pushed off the wall to kick the fat man in the face, knocking him to the ground. Denji, you're pretty weak. If a kick like that knocks you out, a punch from Kobini could kill you. The skinny, gray-haired thief took out some daggers and started running towards Denji, who, upon seeing them, thought about giving them a good scare. I'll kill you! An upward cut. Silence, 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 silence. The only sound in the room was the steady dripping of blood. Blood dripping from Denji's left forearm. The dagger had reached halfway down his forearm, stopping at the bone. Denji, I thought it was going to cut it. What a disappointment. It's not even sharp enough. The thief dropped the daggers immediately upon seeing the blood. He didn't really think it was going to hurt him. It was actually a fairly easy attack to dodge. He just hoped that seeing the blade so close would scare him away, but even that didn't work. He really had a psychopath standing in front of him. Denji took the dagger that was embedded in his arm, and with some force finished cutting his hand. The dwarf took a step back, shocked by the grotesque act, and fell on his rear. The gray-haired man simply took a few steps back while covering his mouth. You just cut your... Denji looked at the thief with some boredom, and when he saw his expressions he smiled. Denji, yes, so what? If you're going to steal, you have to be ready to kill or at worst, be the one killed. Denji held the dagger for a few moments, wiped it on his shirt, and then approached the fat man. This action frightened both thieves, who were watching him from a distance. They did nothing to help their friend, though. Hey, I'll leave it. Denji bent down slightly, and used his dagger to make a small cut on the arm of the fat man still on the ground. He raised the knife and noticed a drop of blood falling from the tip. Denji, I'm a demon. Remember that, kids? Denji licked the blade and his forearm completely regenerated, impressing the two thieves still standing in the same place. Denji looked at his arm for a few seconds and then remembered. Denji, shit! That pretty face. Damn, you guys distracted me and I let it slip away. Denji started running past the thieves who didn't even want to touch him. Denji, I'll borrow your dagger. So I'm stealing it. Denji left there, leaving the two remaining thieves on the verge of collapse. Chapter 2: The Pretty Face. Denji walked past the apple stand where he had been thrown to the ground minutes before, and stopped abruptly. Breathing heavily, he placed both hands on the table of the stall, surprising the vendor. Denji, name. Tell me your name. The seller was quite surprised by this way of acting. Kataman Rish. Denji, all right, Kataman. I need to know who that little girl was who stole the silver-haired girl. Denji took a deep breath because he was so agitated, and after taking a breath he looked straight at Kataman. Denji, I'm poor, but if you help me with this, I swear I'll come here and buy you as many apples as you want. Kataman looked at the boy for a few seconds and sighed. Kataman, that flame in your eyes. The nerve you have to cause this scene in my place. You're brave. Okay, I'll answer whatever you want. Denji, hearing this, looked around, realizing that a crowd was now watching him. Kataman, what are you guys looking at? Go on with your business, everything's going well here. Gossips. Little did Kataman know that the thief was famous for her skill at stealing. She was a rather skilled girl named Felt. Her whereabouts might be somewhere in the slums. With this, Kataman showed him the route to get there, and Denji started walking there after thanking him. The boy seemed to be looking for any reason to stay there. After all, he had no intention of staying in his old world. He'd done his part by saving the entire world from Makima. Now he just had to enjoy his life. Denji, Power would never remember me anyway. She died. Several minutes passed as Denji ran from one place to another, following the route given by Kataman. Little by little, the houses and streets changed, going from elegant, medieval, clean, and well-kept to battered houses, broken streets, and abandoned buildings. He was entering a part of the capital that actually felt familiar to him. Probably because he had grown up in a similar environment. After 30 minutes, with the sun still at its peak, he arrived at a neighborhood that was clearly a slum. He looked at the children who were watching him somewhat suspiciously because of his clothes. The dagger wasn't a problem. In fact, he had it hidden between his pants and underwear. Although at times it cut his thigh a little, it wasn't a problem. Denji crossed paths with a man and stopped him. Denji, dude, I'm really lost. I've been looking for a girl named Felt for hours. Do you know anything? Indeed, yes. He lives over there. If he stole something from you, you'd better go see if you can exchange it for something else. Have a good life. The man pointed out a specific place a few blocks away to Denji and left with that extravagant greeting at the end. Denji, have a good life. Denji started walking while thinking about that greeting. A good life? How good had his life been? I mean, after months of fighting and losing so many people. Denji had decided he wouldn't relate to anyone like that again. The depressive state he'd suffered after Aki's death, after Power's death. It was something that triggered several things inside him. In fact, even now, he's suffering from depression. It hadn't even been 2 weeks since everything happened with Makima, Power's death, etc. Denji came across a sort of makeshift tent. It was an old blanket supported by a wooden board, and inside, it was clear to see several personal belongings. Denji, I used to live in a shed. I can't judge anyone. He looked around and didn't see anyone around, so he just sat and waited for her. Poking his nose into her tiny home was something he wasn't going to try to do out of respect? Or was it empathy? Denji closed his eyes for a few seconds, and when he opened them there was a girl in front of him holding a small knife pointed at his face. Felt, tell me who you are and maybe I won't poke your eyes out. Denji smiled at this and spoke. Denji, that's great. I finally found you. Felt became a little confused upon hearing this, and removed the knife he was holding in front of him. Felt, were you looking for me? Denji, I want something you stole. Felt smiled and put the knife away. Felt, you should have said it before. Time passed quite quickly. The girl explained a number of things to him, which he didn't have time to understand. The location, why he had stolen from the silver-haired girl, and the fact that in a few hours someone would come to negotiate for the stolen item. Right now he was sitting in some kind of bar filled with antiques while a dark-skinned giant offered him something to drink. Denji, I don't want to drink anything. But thanks. You're quite young, kid. How old are you? Denji took 2 seconds to think. In fact, hardly anyone asked him his age. Denji, 16. I'm 16. You should accept my kindness. The drinking age is 15 and up. Denji placed his hand on his chin as he recalculated his last interactions. It's true that he's not the smartest kid, but he does have some common sense. This world is different in several ways. The language is the same except for the writing. When you hear others speak, they refer to the place as a flat world, something that wouldn't be hard to believe, having witnessed the vast majority of surprising things. There were 2 possibilities in his mind. 1, the silver-haired girl shows up to look for her belongings here. Or 2, she takes whatever she's looking for and embarks on a quest to return her things. After thinking about it for a bit, he lightly hit his head while scolding himself. Denji, I said I wasn't going to blindly follow a girl again. What are you muttering about, boy? Denji, I was just thinking out loud. You haven't said your name yet, man. The giant began to laugh. In fact, the whole time Denji was thinking he had been drinking alcohol, and now he was drunk. Ram, oh my god. You're right. My name is Ram. Oh my gosh. Felt re-entered the bazaar and sat next to Denji. Felt, so, what did you bring to trade? Denji opened his eyes in surprise as he realized he didn't really have anything impressive worth much money. Denji, I have a dagger. Felt and old Ram, still drunk, stood with poker face staring at the boy. Ram, kid, we're negotiating for an item that could be worth at least 3 houses. Your dagger could be worth 50 silver coins at most. Denji put his hand to his forehead as he sighed. Denji, then I'll have to steal the item from the buyer once I get out of here. Felt looked at him somewhat disinterestedly and shrugged her shoulders to indicate that she didn't care. Felt, once you leave the bazaar you can do whatever you want as long as I'm winning. Suddenly someone knocked on the door and Felt went to open it. Chapter 3, The Confrontation, Part 1. Felt, why you? What are you doing here? A silver-haired woman walked in with a somewhat annoyed expression on her face. Amelia, okay, could you give me back what you stole so no one gets hurt? Denji, somewhat surprised, not expecting the girl to appear so quickly, stood up and approached her. Denji, too, I saw you on the city street when you were robbed and I thought I'd get back what was stolen from you to give it back to you. Amelia tilted her head, visibly confused. Felt, was that your plan all along? Denji turned and looked at Felt as he raised both hands in a sign of calm. Denji, I know. It sounds bad, but it was for the greater good. Denji turned to the silver-haired girl to say something, but his whole insides trembled. His insides contracted, his skin prickled with goosebumps, and a slight tremor appeared in his legs, starting from the knees. Something was telling him from deep within him to escape, to leave and avoid any confrontation. The faint gleam of a leaf appeared behind the silver-haired girl. Denji, watch out! Denji swiftly raised his dagger to stop an upward slash. The silver-haired woman, somewhat surprised, took a few steps back as a floating gray cat emerged from her hair. I have to thank you, you saved my daughter. Very nice move. A woman wearing black and purple clothes and a rather revealing outfit came out of the darkness. Felt, you're not supposed to fight here. If the owner of the item is present at the location of the negotiation, then it's cancelled. Looks like I wasn't wrong about you. You're just another mediocre person who can't do your job. I expected that from a slum rat. Denji stood staring at the assassin. Although he didn't actually feel afraid, his whole body told him that he couldn't trust himself in front of this woman. Denji, a floating cat and a rather hexy woman in the same room. This is really hard to believe. The woman winked at him as she prepared to attack. Your lust can work against you, kid. I suggest you avoid making those comments. The woman finished speaking, concluding with a smack of her lips. Denji, I'll make all the comments I want about your hexy body. The woman sharpened her gaze and launched a horizontal slash which Denji dodged by taking a step back. Denji, that was close. The woman smiled as she licked her lips again, and the silver-haired woman made a noise as if she was scared. Denji, somewhat bored, looked down and noticed that he had cut his abdomen. I'm pretty good at what I do. They call me the Gut Hunter. Denji placed his hand over the wound, momentarily holding back some of his intestines that were beginning to slide out. Denji, how annoying you are. Denji, without showing any sign of being ill, cut off some of the intestines that had fallen to the ground so that they would not bother him. Something quite grotesque that everyone there witnessed. The hunter raised an eyebrow at him. For a normal person, doing this would mean a death sentence. Without your intestines, you can't live. In short, in the eyes of those present, Denji wasn't going to make it through the day. Denji, what are you guys looking at? I don't think I've ever done anything that impressive. The hunter smiled and got into a pose to attack. Okay, entertain me. Just as she was about to jump towards Denji, Ram came out of his place with a giant club in hand, destroying everything and trying to hit the woman. He didn't succeed, and in fact, in a rather absurd move, the woman cut the garrote and was about to go for the man's neck. Felt, old Ram. Felt threw a knife that collided with the hunter's blade, bouncing off and entering the side of the giant's neck, causing him to fall instantly. Felt, and no. The hunter was about to approach the girl until Denji intervened, launching a slash which the woman parried and made a cut along the entire length of the child's arm, causing him to bleed. Denji kicked her, sending her crashing into a wall, then grabbed the girl by the back of her collar and threw her behind an overturned table, following suit. The table ended up blocking them both. Denji, now pretty face. The silver-haired girl blushed at this but ignored it, and together with her kitten they began to launch a rather powerful attack that was freezing the entire place. Denji, are you okay? The girl had cut her hand on a part of the table, and was bleeding but very little. Felt, yeah? You should worry about yourself. Didn't you see how you look? You're pale, and you cut out half your insides. Denji fixed his gaze on his abdomen, seeing that part of his intestines were hanging out, and he was bleeding non-stop. Denji, it's nothing, I've been through worse. Denji's shirt was now open, revealing the string. He was still hesitant to use it. No one in this world knows about it. He could live a normal life if he kept quiet. But if he didn't use it now, he'd most likely die. Denji, give me your hand. Felt, what are you saying? Denji sighed and took Felt's hand, but she didn't try to struggle. He raised his hand to his face, and 2 drops of blood fell into his mouth. Seeing this, Felt quickly pulled her hand away, somewhat surprised and confused. Felt, what do you think, ha dash? Denji's body healed instantly. Denji, I feel much better now. Denji looked up and saw that the kitten had vanished, and the silver-haired girl was standing alone in front of the hunter. Denji, okay, listen. Now you're going to go out the door and get help. Felt, what are you saying? You want me to run away like a coward? Denji, little girl, this isn't about cowards or braves. If we want to increase our chances, go and find someone who can help. I'll try to hold on for now. Felt, WL, and don't call me a kid. I don't think you're any older than me. I'm 15. Denji, just go and get help, damn it. Felt got up and started running, followed by Denji, who covered her back. Are they trying to escape? How adorable. The hunter threw one of her blades and Denji covered her, receiving it full on his chest, which, strangely enough, had no wounds. Denji stopped, and Felt walked out the door. Denji, okay. If I'm not mistaken, I just opened you up and let your lovely insides spill out. So why don't you have any wounds? The silver-haired girl turned around in surprise to see that she really didn't have any wounds except for the blade in her chest, just below the chainsaw rope. Denji, I was holding back, but it seems that if I don't use all my strength, I won't be able to save this cutie. Chapter 4, The Confrontation, Part 2. There they were again. Both women were staring at Denji. His shirt was currently open and sleeves rolled up. Some blood dripped from his chest to the floor, leaving a trail of blood behind him. Think carefully about your next move, perverted boy. Denji pulled the cord, and a chainsaw erupted from his head, slicing through his skull, splattering blood everywhere. His arms suffered the same fate, splitting in half to reveal the chainsaws. The whole place was now filled with the sound of Denji's chainsaws. His head transformed into that of the chainsaw demon, surprising the hunter and the silver-haired girl, who was, in fact, quite worried about the boy. It was actually quite a surprising sight for both women. The boy's head was difficult to describe, but one thing they did notice clearly was the large row of sharp teeth and the orange dots that were, at first glance, his eyes. His entire neck was surrounded by metal cables. Elsa, I think this will be fun. Elsa Granhert, Undercity Hunter. Denji, ah. Denji the chainsaw demon. Denji started running toward the woman, who did the same, colliding the knife with the chainsaw. The chainsaw won. The knife broke thanks to the force of the strap. The hunter then pulled the other knife from Denji's chest and slashed downward toward his left shoulder, severing his entire arm. Denji removed the saw from his left arm and brought it down on his leg as he dodged the slash, shattering the woman's arm. She stepped back, quite annoyed by that action. Elsa, amazing. You went from being a pervert to an uncontrollable beast. Denji, the perverted thing is still there, bust it. Elsa looked at Denji even more annoyed and launched herself to attack with her remaining arm. The next thing that happened was quite strange for the silver-haired girl. The hunter moved faster than Denji, passing her. Denji stopped and stood still as he realized. Denji, this again can't be. Denji's waist-up part slid to the side, falling to the ground, and his feet remained in place for a few more seconds before finally falling. Denji, damn hexy woman! Denji noticed one of the chainsaws, which was covered in Elsa's blood. As Elsa watched him, waiting for his next move, Denji grabbed the other half of her body and dragged it back into place, then licked the blood off the retracting chainsaws. Elsa raised an eyebrow and then opened her eyes, quite surprised to see Denji standing up again. Denji, thank you, pretty girl. Elsa didn't understand this until she tried to move and realized her feet were frozen to the ground. Denji made the chainsaws longer and in one leap cut the woman in half without stopping in that single attack. Denji, ha 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 ha. Die, 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 die. Denji began to tear her apart in front of the silver-haired girl, who tried to look away. Denji stopped and returned to normal by turning to look at the girl. Denji, that was exciting. For a few moments, Denji stopped thinking about his own problems to focus on the fight, feeling like he did back in the days when he used to slay demons with Aki and power. That was kind of gross. But I think I should thank you. You saved me, more than once. Denji smiled at her, then looked at her and began to think. There wasn't really anything in particular he wanted to say to her. He'd only noticed her because of her beauty. Denji, yes, what's your name? The silver-haired girl smiled at him. Amelia, just Amelia. Denji blushed upon hearing her and seeing her smile. Denji, my name is Denji, just Denji. Amelia, yeah, I heard you at the fight. It's a pretty strange name. Denji was about to speak until suddenly a knife pierced through the back of his neck and came out through his neck. At that moment, all his senses went dark. He couldn't feel his arms, legs, or his entire body. He couldn't speak or breathe. The knife had cut his throat. Amelia, Denji! He fell quickly to the ground as Amelia bent down and grabbed his shoulder, lifting his head so the blood wouldn't choke him. Elsa, I won't give up just like that. I'm a good hunter. If I lose my blades, I'll fight with my claws. If I lose my claws, I'll fight with my teeth. If I lose my teeth, I'll fight with my bones. If I lose my bones, I'll fight with my life. That's the principle of every assassin. Elsa was about to attack Amelia until suddenly a voice was heard. Enough. The ceiling of the place exploded the moment that voice was heard. A red-haired teenager in white clothes appeared. Amelia, carrying Denji, ran to Ram and began healing him. Denji lay helplessly on the ground, the knife still in his neck. His body wasn't responding because the knife had passed through his spinal cord. The impulses from his brain weren't reaching his limbs, and his mind was clouding from the lack of air. He certainly wouldn't die, but he could fall unconscious at any moment. While Amelia healed Ram, Reinhard stood still, denying every attack Elsa threw at him. Amelia, ready Reinhard. Reinhard, I expected nothing less from Miss Amelia. Well, I believe it's time to end our meeting. Imperial Knight, the Sword Saint of the Astria family bloodline, Reinhard van Astria. Elsa Granhert, Hunter of the Undercity. Reinhard's sword began to glow, and after a clash between the two, the entire place exploded. Amelia uncovered her eyes and looked around, only to find Reinhard standing there. Denji, take knife blood. Denji's eyes slowly began to close as he spoke a few words. Amelia, somewhat frightened, began to assess the boy's condition. He only had one wound, the knife. Amelia, huh? The knife? You want me to take out the knife? Denji, with his last seconds of consciousness and being on the edge, nodded awkwardly. Reinhard approached them trying to understand the situation. Reinhard, Miss, who is this boy? Amelia, I don't know. I don't know him. But he stood up to the hunter and saved my life. Reinhard, he looks serious. Amelia, the knife. Amelia turned the boy's head slightly, reaching for the handle of the knife and removing it from his neck. The air barely circulated through his lungs again. Denji, blood, give me blood. Amelia remembered how Denji healed himself in front of the hunter and took the blade, cutting her palm and giving a drop of her blood to the boy. The boy's wound quickly returned to normal. Denji, damn ga! My whole body hurts. Reinhard looked at this, quite intrigued. Someone who heals through the blood of others? His appearance wasn't at all similar to one of those vampires, so his appearance was that of someone quite normal, not counting the strange cord on his chest. Reinhard, impressive. Denji stood up while stretching, and Amelia, with a little healing magic, closed his hand wound. Amelia, Denji? Denji turned around with a tired expression, as if the whole battle earlier had only made him sleepy. Denji, is something wrong? Amelia, I don't understand. Why did you want to help me? Denji raised an eyebrow. The only reason he did so was because of the girl's appearance, and the fact that she happened to be in trouble. Denji, actually I don't have a specific reason. I just saw you were in trouble and decided to try and help out. Amelia, that doesn't sound very reasonable. Why would you risk your life to help a stranger? Denji started to think. Aside from his appearance, the question was quite compelling for him. Why get involved in other people's problems for no reason? In fact, ever since everything ended in his world, Ever since he lost any reason to get out of bed, nothing tied him to that world anymore. Pachita's wish and his apparent immortality were the only things keeping him on the side of the living. He had nothing, no one, and no purpose for him there, so why not find something to waste his time on? Denji, I'm lost and have nothing. No family, no home, no friends, no goals. I'm just trying to find my place. Amelia's expression went from confused to more compassionate. In fact, what she had just heard made her understand the boy's pain a little. She had no friends or family, and had recently been taken to an unknown mansion. Amelia, well, you saved me, so it's only fair if I help you. If you're homeless, you can come with me. Denji looked at her somewhat surprised. Denji, are you serious? Amelia smiled at him. Amelia, yes. I think I like you. Denji was quite blushing. He was about to answer her until Elsa came out of a pile of rubble with a knife in her hand ready to kill Amelia. With a small burst, he approached Amelia, about to make a horizontal cut. Denji pushed Amelia back and faced her. From under his clothes, he pulled out the dagger he had stolen from the thief and stopped the cut. Elsa, you interfered again. Denji, that fight certainly ruined your pretty face, but your tits are still as big as they were in the beginning. Reinhard, with a drop of sweat on his neck, stood in front of him and Elsa threw the blade, causing the blessing to prevent anything thrown at him from hitting him to act by deflecting it. Elsa, you're a miserable pervert. The hunter left immediately. But not before declaring to save their guts for next time. Reinhard, you're quite skilled, aside from the fact that your vocabulary could use some improvement, you're a surprising person. Denji heard those words and burst out laughing. He was about to take a step when he suddenly collapsed. Amelia, are you okay? Amelia ran over and knelt down, holding his back and using her other hand to feel for any cuts on his abdomen. Amelia, did he cut your abdomen? Denji turned and looked into her eyes, their gazes crossing. He stared into those distinctive amethyst-colored eyes. Denji, you are beautiful. Amelia pushed him lightly as she tried to hide her blush. Amelia, what are you saying? Reinhard began to laugh at that scene. Denji, I'm fine, I just lost a lot of blood in the fight. Just let me sleep. Denji closed his eyes as Amelia held his head and fell asleep in her arms. Chapter 5: The Mansion. Denji woke up and looked up at the ceiling. He noticed, somewhat puzzled, that the room was more spacious than his old one. Something that somehow bothered him. He looked at the bed with those white sheets and could easily tell it was the most comfortable bed he had ever slept in. The light from the window indicated it was probably less than noon. Maybe 9 in the morning. He stood up and noticed his clothes were a simple robe. He also had underwear that oddly fit him perfectly. Of course, it wasn't his, so he assumed someone dressed him. Denji stood up and looked out the bedroom window, finding himself on the 3rd floor. He looked closely and the place seemed immense, like a small castle. Although the atmosphere was more like that of a mansion. Denji, that girl, I should have known she was a millionaire or something. Denji left the room and found himself in a strangely endless hallway. He walked for a couple of minutes until some not-so-pleasant memories flooded back. It was like déjà vu. He walked through the first door in front of him and found himself facing a large bookcase and a blonde girl with long pigtails inside. You found the right room. You turned out to be a very annoying man. Denji raised an eyebrow and, understanding the girl's words, entered the library. Denji, so you're the one who made the endless corridor? It's one of the things that goes hand in hand with Betty's crossing doors. I guess. Denji, I see. Do you know what this place is? I think I fell asleep in the most unexpected situation last night, and a cute girl brought me here. Or so I'd like to think. You're at Marquis Roswell L. Mather's mansion. And that girl you're talking about is the half-elf. She showed up last night in a wagon carrying you like a sack of potatoes. Denji, okay, I guess I can relax now. And before I go, so I don't sound too disrespectful, what's your name? Beatrice, that's the first question, kid. And you're already disrespectful for coming in here. But to answer your question, I'm Beatrice, the librarian of this forbidden library. Denji, Forbidden library? Like those places where the information is unique and can't be found anywhere? A vein appeared on the girl's forehead. Beatrice, if you already know the definition, why are you asking? Denji was surprised to hear her scream, so he started to turn around to leave. Denji, well, thanks for clearing up my doubts, miss. I'm leaving. Denji crossed the door, and strangely the endless hallway had disappeared. Denji, that girl has some serious self-control issues. Denji started to sweat as he realized something. Denji, I feel like shitting. He began to repeatedly open several of the doors there, praying that one of them would be the bathroom. After a few minutes of sometimes accidentally opening the door of the little girl from before, he wondered why life treated him this way. He found the bathroom, and upon exiting he returned to the bedroom where he woke up and continued sleeping. Denji, a bed like that, I'm not going to pass up this opportunity. Denji curled up, and as soon as he laid his head on the pillow he fell asleep, drooling on the pillow. When he opened his eyes he felt a little dizzy, probably from the lack of blood and the fact that he had easily slept for more than 12 hours. A couple of girls were standing in front of him talking. Sister, it seems our guest has just woken up. Denji looked at them with a bored face while rubbing the edge of his right hand with his eye and yawning. Rem, it seems our guest is a lazy bum who's going to go back to sleep. Denji, it seems like they're just here to annoy us. Am I right? Looking at them closely, they were, at first glance, a pair of twins. Both in maid outfits. One had blue hair and the other pink hair. Something I also noticed without them noticing was that the one with blue hair had noticeably larger breasts than the one with pink hair. Rem, we're just here to check that you're okay, sir. Denji, I'm fine, just needing a little blood. Nothing a good meal can't replace. Sister, the guest declared that he will eat all the food we have in the mansion. Denji, thanks for underestimating me. All the food wouldn't be enough. Denji raised his hands while wiggling his fingers mockingly. Rem, the lazy pig said thanks, I didn't think he even knew the word existed. Denji raised an eyebrow as he scratched his head. Denji, what a great sense of humor. Rem, my dear sister's way of speaking depends on the type of guest. You seem to be well off. Denji sighed as he tried to get up and whispered to himself. Denji, being treated like Makima's dog was more entertaining. Rem, our guest said something about being treated like a dog. Is he a pervert who enjoys being humiliated? Rem, sister, our guest is a pig who likes perversion. The silver-haired girl walked through the door just as the maids finished talking. Amelia, what's all the fuss about? Rem, Miss Amelia, our guest is a pervert who enjoys masochism. Ram, Miss Amelia, our guest wishes to be treated like a dog. Amelia, please stop bothering him. Rem, yes, Miss Amelia. My sister is sorry. Ram, yes, Miss Amelia, Rem regrets it too. Amelia walked over to Denji and sat on the edge of the bed next to him. Amelia, Denji, are you feeling okay today? Denji opened his robe a little, showing that he had no wounds. Denji, I healed the mortal wounds, but I'm missing quite a bit of blood. Amelia, I see. Denji, but that aside, it's good to see you. Last night, my body just couldn't take it anymore. Even though I could have fought longer, I'd been feeling strangely weak since before I fought that woman. Amelia, Denji, after what happened yesterday, I didn't know how to thank you. Reinhard offered to give you a place at the Istria house, but I refused and brought you with me. Denji, well, I think everything turned out okay in the end. You're doing well, I think. A small kitten emerged from the girl's hair as she yawned. Puck, you're the guy from yesterday. You know, I should thank you for saving Lia. You did pretty well saving the girl and the old man. Denji gave a thumbs up while smiling. Denji, you're welcome. I couldn't leave such a pretty girl like her there. Amelia looked at Puck for a few moments and he sighed. Puck, don't worry, I don't sense any malice in him. Though I can tell his soul isn't the cleanest of all. Denji put his hand to his chin as he thought about what Puck said. Denji, it's not the first time they've said it. But that's just the way I am. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. Puck began to float around Denji's head and stood on his head. Puck, someone who can say that without feeling embarrassed is admirable. I have to admit you have good values. Denji listened and smiled for a few moments as he picked up Puck and felt his soft fur. He petted him for a few seconds until he realized something pretty obvious. Denji, come to think of it, you're a floating kitten. What are you really? Puck, I'm a great spirit. Amelia opened her eyes in surprise. Amelia, wait, you don't know? Denji sighed as he lay down on the bed and Puck stood on his chest. Denji, I'm not from around here. And I don't think my home exists. I don't know anything. I can't even read. Amelia covered her mouth as she expressed concern. Amelia, you're in a very bad situation. Your clothes, your name, everything is strange. Now I think I understand. Puck crawled into Denji's robe and pulled a rope from his chest. Puck, what's this? Denji jumped and stopped Puck from pulling the rope. Denji, it's the rope for my chainsaws. Amelia and Puck tilted their heads at this. Amelia / Puck, chainsaws? Denji, it's hard to explain. Amelia, I think you said something similar last night. Demon Chainsaw? Denji remembered yelling his nickname in the middle of the fight. Denji, that's what I am. I'm the Chainsaw Demon. Amelia opened her eyes in surprise. Amelia, are you a demon? Puck, I don't sense malice in you. I don't think you're quite a demon. Denji just sighed. Denji, I don't know what definition of demons you have here, but I'm nothing like what you think. My power simply increases because of people's fear. The more they fear me, the stronger I become. Amelia, and what do you do with the blood? Does the blood heal you? Denji, in theory it's kind of my food. But I prefer eating normal food. Several minutes passed as Denji, Amelia and Puck talked calmly, going out to the courtyard. Several minutes later the twins appeared while speaking in unison. Ram/Rem, Miss Amelia, our master, Lord Roswell has returned. Now they were walking towards the dining room where they were supposed to meet and have lunch together.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.